Hello, this is Lora O'Brien from the Irish Pagan School, and you are joining me today for a discussion, a small introduction maybe, to the Sidhe, Ireland's fairy folk. Now, I've written a lot about this, I've talked a lot about it, I've written a whole book on the fairy faith in Ireland, but today I just wanted to, as I said, introduce you to Ireland's fairy folk in myth and reality, because there's a lot of bullshit out there. There really is. So today we are going to look at this rich tapestry of myths and folklore. Some of it anyway. We will begin. If you want this to be a whole series, comment below and let me know. So I am an Irish historian and folklorist, for anybody who doesn't know. So I want to always be shedding light on the authentic traditions and beliefs that surround these enigmatic beings, which are very far removed from the realms of fantasy and fiction that unfortunately a lot of our culture is starting to cross over and to somehow believe that fiction is actually folklore. And those are very, very different things, my friends. So just a little bit first on the historical context and origins. So the Sidhe, or, as I said, they're called the Irish fairy folk. There's lots of different names. Maybe I'll do another video on names. Again, comment below if you want to know all about that. But they've been a part of Irish mythology since our records began, I suppose. We do have reference from pretty ancient lore and texts, such as the Goval on Sidhe, the taking of the Sidhe. And this would be reference, I suppose, to the Tuatha Danann as the Sidhe and going into the Mounds. So the Sidhe literally means a mound or mounds. And again, these were associated with entrance to the other world and these beings who were in and out of them. So it's quite a complex topic. But regards to the folklore, that started to be recorded probably around the 1600s, 17th century, maybe definitely into the 18th and 19th century. And these tales really have been woven into the fabric of Irish culture ever since. There probably isn't a person in Ireland who hasn't heard at some point in their lives. Now, of course, I'm going to get people in the comments that are like, I'm in Ireland and I've never heard this, but heard at some point in their lives some story about the banshee, about a leprechaun, about finding a comb and your parents freaking out, about weird happenings, about all sorts of things that are attributed to the Sidhe as very much an integral part of the fabric of Irish society. And most Irish people will tell you that we don't believe in the Sidhe or the fairies, and yet the traditions remain. And yet we won't be crossing them anytime soon. We won't be digging the mounds. We won't be cutting down the trees. We won't be pissing them off, just in case, right? So it's really, really deeply embedded into, as I said, the fabric, the culture of our society here in Ireland to this day. This is very much a living tradition. And these stories have evolved. They continue to evolve and they continue to be a vibrant part of Ireland's folklore. So on my blog, in my book, on this YouTube channel, I really endeavour to explore the origins of these stories, the evolution from the ancient times to their place in contemporary Irish society. So that's what I'm going to do here. Again, if we do a series, let me know if you want more on this. So I suppose the nature and the characteristics of the Sidhe. Central to our understanding of the Sidhe or the Irish fairies is grasping their perceived nature and the roles that they play within the Irish landscape. So they are described, as I mentioned before, by dwelling in the mounds, the forts, other ancient sites, trees, particular places in nature, but they are not nature spirits. They are very much of the other world. And we do have kind of nature spirits here, but that is a different thing. Now, again, the other world is a really mixed bag. It's a whole, literally, other world that includes ghosts, goblins, Sidhe, nature spirits, whatever you're having yourself on any given day. So there's a lot that's going on in this kind of parallel existence, which is the other world. It's literally on sale, Ella, the other life, within the culture and within the tradition. So the they are believed, the Sidhe themselves are believed to interact with the human world. And this is where a lot of our folklore stories come from. But that is not usually to the benefit of the humans that they interact with. This is not fluffy little sparkly fairies down the bottom of your garden. This is getting your baby stolen. This is getting your bride or your groom taken away before the wedding or on the day of the wedding. This is mysterious illnesses because you've pissed them off in some way that you may not even know, right? This is what we teach our children, to make sure that they don't mess with the fairies, that they don't annoy them, that if we're given offerings or anything, if we propitiate them in any way, that is to keep them in their place. They don't come in our homes. They don't there are exceptions to every rule, okay? But for the most part, generally across the culture, we are very, very wary and respectful of the Sidhe, of their places, of their nature, of anything to do with them, of any offers that they make to us, of any gifts that they may give to us. It usually, within the folklore and the stories, does not turn out well for the humans who are interacting with the Sidhe. That is their nature. That is the characteristics of the fairies and the fairy faith in Ireland. Now, that doesn't stop people wanting to interact with them, and I am aware of that. So really what I would love to do is just educate people. So especially within, contemporary paganism, worse within neo-paganism, where it's far removed from, in many cases, not in all cases, of course, but in neo-paganism, it is often far removed from the culture and the folklore and the history that, bits and pieces are kind of drawn or cherry picked out and then taken out of context. And that's when people get in trouble. So it's really important to understand the cultural significance and beliefs of the fairy faith in Ireland. And if you're going to be drawn in by the allure of their mystique and their fairy promises and their fairy gifts, you got to understand how to take care of yourself. So you got to learn the rules. You got to read the folklore. You got to have an understanding of what the living traditions are. You got to know the danger points. You have to know what to do, what not to do, what to do if you get in trouble, who to contact if you're out of your depth, because that happens a lot. There were a lot of fairy doctors. This was literally a career in Ireland in the 18th and 19th century. And the understanding then extends to trying to understand their nature. And again, you need the history, you need the context, you need to understand about the Tuatha Danann, you need to understand what an offering is, you need to understand what kind of places are sacred to them and why. And all of that comes with the context of Irish culture, Irish traditions. So you can't just understand the fairies without understanding Ireland itself, our history, our culture, our society, our traditions, our places, our landscape, our Dinhenicus. All of that is so important to understanding the Sidhe, to understanding the fairies in Ireland. So these beliefs really reflect broader themes of spirituality here. Our native spirituality is definitely woven through this. And by native, I mean whatever was here pre-Christian. There is a respect for nature, respect for wild places, but it's really a respect for the sovereignty of the land as such, rather than an ecological respect, if that makes sense. And of course, the interconnection between the worlds. So between our world and the other world, which is their realm. And what happens if you wander into the other world mistakenly, or if you get stolen in there? How do you get back? How can you travel there and get back safely? Pro tip, that is achieved with my guided journey methodology, which you can find at the Irish Pagan School. So this is definitely much more than just fairy tales. It's definitely much more than any kind of contemporary urban fantasy fiction that you may be coming across and think is cool. Any kind of gameplay, any kind of fanfic, any any of that is going to be so far removed from what you actually need to know about the Sidhe if you are going to either accidentally or on purpose encounter them. So it's really on you to get to grips with this deep-seated cultural heritage and understand how it continues to influence contemporary Irish identity and, of course, our spirituality. And there is, even within the Christian blend that's here in Ireland, there is a lot of fairy folklore, of fairy faith that is mixed in with the native, as in the pre-Christian stuff that still remains in bits and pieces here through our folklore, through our history, through our mythology. And of course, then, through what has grown here naturally within our contemporary paganism, such as you may see at the Irish Pagan School, within our contemporary pagan belief system of that. But if you're drawn to the mysteries of the Sidhe and you want to explore further, read the folklore. Over on our blog, there is essential resources for exploring Irish folklore. There's literally a blog post about that. There's all sorts of information, resources, links. There is a trustworthy checklist, a trustworthy resources checklist, which is linked below. You can find it at irishpagan.school/checklist. So there's a whole section on the Sidhe there, so that will definitely get you started. And those are all free and paid resources, of course. All of that is available. If you click on the link below, which is irishpagan.school/free, you will get a year's worth of free learning. And if you want to go and pay for classes, you are obviously more than welcome to do that as well. You go to irishpaganschool.com, and that's myself and esteemed author Morgan Daimler, who would be teaching classes on the fairy faith, on the Sidhe, on various aspects of the tradition within the curriculum of the Irish Pagan School online. So those are all available on demand. So you have a wealth of resources at your fingertips. And of course, you don't have to limit yourself. If you get that checklist, you don't have to limit yourself to just our own resources. Go to that blog post, the essential resources of Irish folklore. There is so much for you to examine, to understand, and to start your journey with understanding the Irish Sidhe, or Ireland's fairy folk in myth and reality. So thank you so much for your time, for your attention. And again, if you want a full series on this, let me know below and I will do my best. Slán.